Welcome to Curious Chimps podcast. I'm your co-host Nathaniel Pearl.
And I'm Sam Sheva.
And welcome.
We here at Curious Chimps are law-abiding citizens. We do not endorse anything illegal. And anything we discuss is for entertainment and not information purposes. We are not experts, and nor do we claim to be. So please, consult doctors, do your research, read the label, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
How fast that changes your entire experience.
Slowing things down, you know? That's one of the things I love about in yoga, and just when you, part of it is just the breathing, the conscious breathing throughout the whole practice, you know?
They say like a good practice is like a 3-in-1. You know, if you do like a postures, like an actual yoga asana practice for an hour, if you're doing it properly, you're breathing right the whole time. You're breathing deep the whole time. Especially in Ashtanga, they encourage you to do like that deep core, like that guttural breathing, like the entire time.
Yeah.
And on top of it, you're focused the entire time. So you're kind of, you could call it meditating. It's like mindfulness, but like that's 3 hours in one, essentially.
Wow.
You know, it's like you're fast forwarding.
I don't get that in training, like physical training.
You don't. Because you push.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a moment. I mean, I'm not a huge gym goer, but like I feel like I lose form often. So something's wrong.
Okay.
You know,
you're going too heavy, or
it could be with my dips too. Maybe I'm just not used to the movement or something, whatever the details, but there is this kind of just like you got to go after it. You know, that's why I'm always a little bit afraid of sports like soccer. Like I love trampoline, I love martial arts, I love yoga, I love swimming. Those are all solitary sportive experiences, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you're playing soccer, you're getting real cardio because you don't care about anything but your opponent and the net. It's a goal-oriented exercise, and I didn't realize it, but the gym is the same thing. You're not focused on your breathing and your... My brother was there all the time, like, dude, you're not breathing right. You know, I would cramp up on the treadmill. He's like, dude, you're not breathing right. Like, he was like a yoga teacher. He's like, dude, breathe, you know, like, no cramps.
it's funny because when I do my deadlifts, from what I've been reading, it's you holding your breath as you go down. So you go, and you're creating that abdominal pressure, the diaphragm compressing, and it activates all the core muscles. So then on that lift, you go like you're elephant breathing almost, where it's just like you're blowing out.
Yeah, a lot of people do the like that lips vibrating.
It's a powerlifting technique, and because you need the abdominal pressure to carry that load.
Yeah, there's a lot of people wear belts too, like to like have the pressure push back. They do that in martial arts, like the belts. I mean, like I took this kung fu class. They didn't have like a white belt. They just gave you a sash, and it was black already. And the guy's like, "Don't think I'm giving you a black belt. You're new, but I don't give you. I tell you what your next thing is to learn. That's the way he saw it. But then he explains the sash. It's a sash. It's wide, and like you put it tight. You breathe in. You engage the core. You tighten it. You tie it, you know, and then you breathe out. Okay. And then so the whole time you have this thing like reminding you, forcing you pretty much like a brace, like to keep your core activated.
I just picture for judo, that would be the nice little grip to throw you with.
Judo, they wear that shit open like the players, you know, like they go into the club. It's open. I love when they've been fighting for a few rounds and the gi's all crumpled and open. You see the guy's chest, the belt is on the floor or like around the other guy's neck or something.
Because that opening round, because I've practiced a lot of judo because my lineage, my jiu-jitsu teacher was a black belt in judo as well. So jiu-jitsu and judo. So
that's a beautiful mix.
Yeah.
Get him on the ground and then you know what to do.
Yeah. Dude, his base is so solid because he's a short guy, maybe 5'6", but compressed, you know, like just those meaty compressed dudes with like strong bone density and all that. Yeah. He's like $150, maybe 160 pounds max. But when he grabs you, it's just like this
head to toe leverage,
and
torque, whatever the words are,
can just flip you so easily. But that belt grip, when the round starts and how tight it is, you get like a nice grip, because that after that the belt starts to loosen and then it gets more tricky. But that first grip is so sick.
There's that one and done.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
And then their gis open up.
You should just loosen the belt, bro. Life hack.
Back when I was competing in jiu-jitsu, sometimes to differentiate the two for points, one has to wear a second belt, and it can be like a green belt or something, or green and blue, or something like that. So it's when they put that color out, they know who's getting the points. So, but kind of a disadvantage too, because now you have two belts that they can grab onto.
I guess that's your new test.
Yeah.
That's funny. Martial arts are weird, man. It's an ass kicker. I like I was saying before, before we started, like my core is weak. It's a big thing. It's like my I used to do taekwondo when I was younger. So I have this like hip power, just this knowledge, this like my body knows how to really post on one leg and like fly the other leg without hurting myself, especially on a heavy bag. But where we do the rapé, I vomit a little bit, which we'll explain in more detail later. Yeah. And I realize how weak my core is. And it's like, dude, I don't remember where I got this. Okay. I didn't make this up, but it's so obvious and I keep using it. Your core is attaching the top half of your body to the bottom half of your body. And there's no conceptual, other than our current society, there's no rhyme or reason to it ever getting weak. And yet here we are. And now we have to think of it as a bridge, that's weak. That's like the all the energy I'm getting from the ground is wasted, is lost a lot, because suddenly it goes into the joints, which are literally like made to cushion and like absorb energy, and then it's just hurting you also. And then you're losing all that energy on the way up. Like I love watching, when I was a kid, there was these National Geographic or something, like these like specials about like sports science, and they would talk about martial arts, and you'd see like a guy throwing a perfect punch like a boxer,
kinetic,
and slow motion, and then they'd have like the CG recreation where you see the energy going up the foot.
I love the sports science.
It was beautiful.
But that's it. You learn that right off the bat in boxing or wrestling or whatever. You might have strong arms and you can produce force with your muscle, but that's not going to last.
Ends at the shoulder, maybe the lats, like maybe down the back a little bit.
But first of all, it's an efficient movement because you're rotating. You're using just one limb. But when you start learning the technique, you realize it's pivoting from the foot. But it's all really just about rotating your core. And that's the force. But by rotating your foot, you're allowing more range for your abdomen to rotate as well. And then the arm is just like the tip of the whip, they call it. It's like that's the connection. That's a similarity that in martial arts. Like I did White Crane Kung Fu, which is a great school in Montreal. They have one in Laval and another place in Montreal. Anyway, just a shout out. There's like a weakness, and there's a slow, I don't know how to put it. Like boxing, that's where you see that it's a sport, because it's a type of fighting. There's a bunch of rules, and in martial arts, you're not going really for that power because you're broadcasting your punch. If it lands, that guy's on the floor probably. But with martial arts, you're hitting with your front fist because it's closer, and you're getting all that energy from the ground. In Kung Fu, in the one I learned. I won't talk. I did it for like 2-3 years. I'm not a master or anything. But like the idea was to get that whip, and you get it from the ground, but it's more speed over strength. Okay, I see. And then boxing is like haymakers. I mean, like even the jabs. There's a rotation involved, right? Yeah. In boxing, I guess you could say Kung Fu's all jabs. Maybe it's straight. There's no circle punches, hooks and stuff. No, because you leave yourself open to blocking. Okay, and it's like the other person's training the whole time to do these movements like in unison, and like you go for a block that turns into a punch, which you might have already done, so that like your front arm blocks. It's harder to say like over audio, like I'm showing you while I'm doing it, but it's like it's more down the middle, like it's the block turns into an attack sort of, and it's not super efficient in terms of power, but it's like constantly protecting yourself while turning everything into an attack. Well, I've seen videos of the guys, they're like holding like a metal pan or something, and they're just doing the technique, hitting the pan as fast as they can. That's Wing Chun probably. Yeah, it's more Wing Chun. They taught that too at that school. Okay. The guy knows Wing Chun. He even knows the dragon dance. He has a lot of Chinese tradition. He's just a white guy. His name's Lauren Bernard. Lauren Bernard. But he just, I think he was like 20 years old. He like moved to China or somewhere close, and he was like studying with the masters, and he stayed there for like a good 10 years and like really learned everything, and then came back and said like, hey,
I'm like you. I'm a white guy. No, he's not. He's honorary Chinese.
So I used to have a lot of beef with Wing Chun and Kung Fu in general, just because the rigid concepts that it's like this way is the only way. But now I'm noticing that it's because of mixed martial arts kind of mapped out the idea that you need to piece together fruits from all arts and form your style, which is kind of what Bruce Lee was talking about. Was just the Jeet Kune Do had a little bit of wrestling, judo, kickboxing. It was all combined, and he was like the early stages of MMA. He pretty much came up with the concept, and so from my beef from Kung Fu and Wing Chun and all this is I see that there is some fruits that you could take from it, in terms of even the hand fighting, the keeping the grips and constantly the fakes and then the straight punch pops. They're
for sure. Bruce Lee's the best example too. I mean, for my generation, I guess. Yeah. Because he, like, maybe the stardom is faded now, and we can see him more as a martial artist. Because people coming out at the time, they would like end up in a karate class because it was the thing to do at the time. Yeah. And it wasn't even karate exactly, you know. But anyway, Bruce Lee's like, I just see him as this like. He's not really an innovator. He's just like, he just practiced a lot. One of his like best quotes is like, I'm more afraid of someone who practiced one kick 1,000 times than 1,000 kicks one time. Yeah. You know, so he has a lot of all the philosophy behind it. That just rings true everywhere in all of life, you know, if it's good philosophy. And then a few nuggets, a few things of like, oh, you know what? This technique works, that techniques work. Like, for sure, maybe like modern jiu-jitsu is obviously way more advanced, and it's adapting to the advancements that people are making in that field. And jiu-jitsu just happens to be really adaptive in general and really useful. But then you go to something like I said, I started off in Taekwondo, and I got kind of like shitty about it. I think anyone who gets into martial arts, they start realizing what is useful. I really liked capoeira, but you're gonna get your ass kicked. It's at a high level, it kind of turns into jiu-jitsu. There's all these crazy like rolls into the person, and then you're suddenly like hooking their leg with your leg, and there's these really cool things that you don't really get to see because the demonstrations are always like I forgot what it's called, but everyone's in a circle. They got those fucking instruments. They're like, and they're all dancing and like trying not to hit each other, essentially.
Well, you know the history of capoeira?
All I know is that there was like slavery in that part of the world at the time, and then they were trying to learn and propagate a martial art so they could defend themselves, but they had to hide it in dance. And then that ended up being very useful because let's say some guy would hit the slave, that they could make it look like they were getting hit, and then take the blow softly because they were practicing all the time. Like you know, you might get kicked in the head by accident, but you're already moving away because you're so. What I loved about that experience is you're so into it because a mistake and you're hitting someone in the crowd. Or you're getting I would do it and I'd keep my glasses on. Okay. And I would be like, if I'm getting kicked in the face, this is like a $600 problem or something, you know?
But it's all about, they've incorporated rhythm into it. And rhythm is timing. And even Bruce Lee was like some master. Wasn't he like a tango dancer or like salsa?
You know what I found out? I mean, like that, all those guys at Jet Li also, like they went to this special school, like a kind of acting school. Okay. But they learn martial arts, they learn dance, they learn to sing, they learn all this like performance stuff, and martial arts is part of that. So like they're like the most badass guys we can think of, but they're like the equivalent of like ballet, you know, like they're like high end. Maybe they're not the best, you know, but they're the ones who became famous. Like I don't know.
If you're not, maybe you're not so up to date with the boxing world, but there's a guy, Vasil Lomachenko. You should check out his highlights.
I love these names. Yeah, that's the best thing about the martial arts world. These fucking names.
So Vasil Lomachenko.
He sounds like a diehard bad guy. I'm sorry.
It's the perfect name. It's like, you know, from that name, you're like, that guy means some shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
So his movement, his father like put him into dancing. I don't know what kind of, I think it might be like Ukrainian dancing. Anyway, it's like regardless of the title, he did a lot of dance, and you see he's almost untouchable. He's like one of the biggest names right now, and there's literally a step that they named after him in boxing. It's like the Lomachenko step, and he hits you with like a jab cross or a 1-2, and then he just moves out of the way and you counter, but you're hitting air. And he's still there, but on your right. And he hits you, and then he goes back to the left. And he's literally dancing in front of you. And you see guys he's competing against, or just they break down like right there because like, where is this dude? and he doesn't back up. He just keeps coming forward, left and right, lateral steps, back and forth.
Oh, that's cool. I gotta
dude,
see that.
It
I'm
is a work of.
that.
I saw him. I'm like, this guy's gonna be the next big thing. I think he's undefeated even, or he might have 1 or 2 losses, but incredible movement. Yeah.
Is it just a high quality of movement, or is he like counteracting a norm? So he's like confusing.
I think it's a bit of both, man.
Okay. Because is there a way to counter the counter, or is he just like doing a kind of like, is he randomizing it? I guess you always are when you're fighting.
Yeah, it's intuitive for sure, but it's very technical, his movement, and it's like basic boxing, very traditional basic techniques, just amplified by his incredible footwork and his shifting. And I think most of his opponents are just not. How can you reproduce such movement in training camp when you
need to fight him?
Yeah.
Essentially. Oops.
Yeah.
You need to fight him. You know, like a lot of times there's this idea of like lateral training or cross training, and my phone.
That's all good. We'll cut that out.
No, we won't. I want people to know that I have like a Casio like 1999 on my phone because I love it. What was I saying? Yeah, like, you know, when they used to say, like, I grew up hearing this a million times, like people, like high level boxers would start learning ballet, and then you like this ankle strength comes out, this flexibility, this ability to suddenly shift your weight but still be like at a good posture. That's useful in boxing, but you gotta already be a high level boxer, and then you start implementing something, and then it feeds into your boxing because you're at that level.
Yeah.
But it's so cool to talk about this guy who at a young age kind of learned both.
Yes.
And now it shows. Yeah. It shows that there's something extra there. And that's really cool that it's like, that works, but we could do it even better. Yeah. Let's make this kid like, there's always that fun thing in psychology, like you learn about this in like Psych 101, you know, and it's like pretty much a bunch of crazy stories about people like in the 50s just like experimenting on children. And it's horrible.
Yeah.
But it's like some smart dude was like, I can make a kid into anything if I get him young enough, you know. And then they try it. They try to like induce intelligence or trauma, and it's horrible, but it's interesting.
Well, you know what it is? It's children in general. They don't have the same gravity weight that we've carried on all our years, and they're just so much more mobile and flexible and dynamic.
They're squishy, malleable. There's less stuff,
and it's like, pick up if you started Taekwondo today versus when you started when you were younger. It's like you'll get to some of the movements, but you'll never get that natural bounce and reaction that a kid would get starting from age 14 till 21.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really it's crazy.
Rogan brings it up often because he's like a martial arts teacher, and it's like, I've seen it a million times. Like if someone starts a little too old, they can do it. He always makes that point, you know, like that one dude who got flexible over 2 years. He was like super stiff, and he just did it every day for like 2 hours. It's like, you can. It's just a little harder. Yeah. You know, when I was a kid, my French was my first language. I picked up English. I started learning Italian. Like, you're worried about less or something, or it's just a brain physiology thing. Yeah. Or they're one and the same. Maybe as you get older and you get more information, you just like, it just solidifies you. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's like, we're talking nature nurture. So we could talk for a million years and not get anywhere, and that's even if we were like high level scientists. It's debatable still.
But it's getting back to the point where you're talking about your core and the strength behind it, and how our core is supposed to be the connection, the bridge between up and down, and how it's kind of weak for most people, which it shouldn't be. Is that you see that with this like Lomachenko, where the dancing kind of released tension in his extremities and brought more attention to the core. So the more tension you can release in the extremities, the arms, the shoulders, and the more fluid your movement is, the more efficient and strong your transfer of weight will become.
That's what I was going to say before when you said the whip. I remember now, like that's what they share is be as loose as possible until the last second. Yeah. And you got to practice on a bag because you're going to bust your wrist a couple times. Yeah. You have to, even if you're stiff the whole time, people punch wrong. So imagine like having a knife hand, you know, like your fingers are open and you're more ready for like different attacks, because martial arts just has like that mentality of like hold your hand a certain way for a certain like global experience, global, like this is going to be most useful for most things. But then you suddenly are throwing a punch, and halfway through, you know, like you're getting that everything from the ground, like you said, and that energy transfer goes all the way to the hand, but it's almost like it flows easier because you're relaxed. and at the last second you twist and you close the fist sort of, and like some stuff's relaxed, but the fist is strong, the shoulder's strong. It gets complicated when you have a teacher and they go, look, this is right, this is wrong, this feels right, but you're going to hurt yourself in like 5 years. Like you really need an expert. But that whip, we share that whip. Yeah. And I think it's powerful.
That's in all sports, is working the elasticity of the body and creating weight transfer. You see it in tennis, you'll see it in golf. Like if you break down anything, it comes down to the same principles.
Golf. Yeah. I tried golf recently, like swinging, like just trying to drive something far. It's a perfect example of that. Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've never done it. I feel so stiff. And there is this like, keep like half your body stiff and half your body loose, and then just like do this technique perfectly to hit this tiny ball with this weirdly angled flat part on the end of a stick. Like, fuck off, man.
And like you can hit the ball and have fun with your buddies, but if you break down the actual technique, it's like it's another stage of mastery. It's going to take X amount of time, concepts, practice, rotation, and that's why these old guys, like, they can hit further than both of us put together. It's like they're not stronger than us. It's just they have more efficient movement.
They're looking at the hole. They're not even looking at the ball anymore. Yeah. You know, I was talking, like, I played this game Rocket League, this stupid video game, and there's like on computers there's an eye tracker technology, and it's a fun thing that people like put that. And then they make a video on YouTube, like they're playing the game, and then like an expert, like a guy who's a pro, who's getting paid to play this game, who's like winning championships. You see his eyes where they're looking, and you realize, I mean, this guy's never looking at his car. Okay. He knows what's going on with that. He doesn't need to look at that anymore. And he's always looking, where are the other players? Where's the ball? It's funny.
That's crazy. Even in jiu-jitsu, like they say, when you get the higher belts, like a black belt is thinking 7 or 10 moves ahead of you.
Exactly.
So he knows you're going to react this way, or this way. He knows what he's going to do there. He knows your reaction and from that defense. And like, it's just your mind is expanded so much.
Yeah, you're less involved with yourself because you've built a base. Your body knows what to do, and now you can project your mind into the task. It's this cool metaphor for life. I hate to go fucking full cheese, but it does. But it's like relax. Ease into effort is something I say a lot as a cue for yoga. Ease into effort. It's so nice. It's like an oxymoron, but it isn't. Verbally, it sounds confusing, but in life, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Find that wall, like just ease into it. The relaxation has a benefit that you can still concentrate. A lot of people, a lot of the new agey movement, it's like forget your problems kind of thing. Even when they're aware of that pitfall, it still kind of turns into that, And it's anyway, I'm just like babbling a little. Okay, we probably burnt like a half hour already. You want to like get into
Yeah, we'll talk about rapé.
Yeah, okay, let's get into rapé. So me and you just fucking we've done this twice already, and before every
I think it's going to become a tradition.
I hope it is. Yeah. Because it really humbles you. And I need that. So from what I understand, and I don't, rapé is a substance. It's a powder. It's obviously some Amazonian tradition where they take, it's kind of a secret recipe, but I understand there's tobacco, there's dried up leaves, there's bark and other leaves, and there's ash of something, and there's some oils and stuff. Yeah, so it's more complicated than ayahuasca. It's like this whole thing, and then every type of rapé after has like a lot of varying
different ingredients, different intention behind making it, and it can be
a light stimulating buzz to let's say a full purge extreme. Like today was like a very intense, like almost it was like cocaine-ish, except like I said, there's no like heart palpitation. It just feels good. It feels like I think I said it. It's like it's an anti-drug because it's extremely sobering.
That was a good point you made. I want to go into that because I had an interesting conversation with someone. I'll get back to that after, about anti-drug and what the effects of rapé versus actual.
Yeah, and that's the mid-range. Yeah, because the other end is what you were telling me earlier. Like there's like kind of DMT laced rapé, and you'll get visuals. It'll be like a yet another experience. Yeah. And final thing before you continue, you ingest it by yourself or someone else sticking a beautiful like wooden crafted tube up your nose, and then the other person goes and it goes right up your fucking brain hole. And it's uncomfortable. it's not a fun thing like smoking a J with your buds. Anyway,
there's a level of work. It's ease into effort again. It's like there's quite a bit of so it's
ease, maybe not, but effort, yeah.
But so it's sacred tobacco, right? It's our tobacco here in the Western world is way different than what they're ingesting. Ours is laced with thousands of chemicals. Their tobacco, it's what they fucking put rat poison too in there or something. I don't know if that's true, but
who knows?
Yeah,
they put the paper too. They make it burn certain ways. And then, you ever have a cigarette run, like a joint? You ever have it like burn like you know when it just like goes out?
It doesn't happen with cigarettes.
Barely. If it did, you talked for way too long. Most of them just keep burning.
Yeah.
Most of them you're just
like,
the guy's
what
talking.
Is that?
And
what's doing that? And what would besides that? I would picture incense that keep lighting. That's about it.
Yeah, and you don't want to inhale that shit.
So it's the sacred tobacco, and the one we got actually is from Brazil, the one that we tried right before the podcast, and. To the best of my knowledge, it's the sacred tobacco, some type of ash from some herbs and spice and plants, and I taste the hint of cinnamon in there. I don't know. It has, we'll never really know the recipe.
It's distinct smell.
Yeah, that one's a strong one compared to the previous one. So what's beautiful about rapé is that it is served through the nose. It's a snuff, so it's always nice when someone shoots it up your nostril for you.
It's a snuff.
Yeah.
It just sounds bad already.
And so in terms of effects, it's completely... There's two avenues that you can take for description. I'll go down first physiological. When you receive it in the nose, right off the bat at a physiological level, it clears your nasal pathway. It washes right through. It's like a disinfectant almost. And then through that, your blood pressure does increase. You create heat in your body. You're stimulated because of the nicotine from the tobacco,
and who knows what else.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically that's the physiological aspect, and whatever is stuck in that canal is going to come out through mucus out of the mouth, the nose. At bigger doses, you can start to purge, and just guck that's in your tubes are just going to shoot out of your body, whatever is feeling heavy. And then at the psychological and energetic level, it kind of just grounds you. And like you said before, when we did it, it was like, it brings you right back to the center of your body.
Yeah.
And like, how do you explain that rather than feel that? But it makes so much sense. It's like...
I could try, but it's just one experience. It's different every time. Like, I was thinking about it in the car, but I couldn't talk because I was like out of it or into it, whatever. But like, like... a basic way that the shamanistic like point of view has been explained to me is that you're always like you're looking at life as if you're on the path instead of just like thinking you're on the path and doing like a practice on the side. It's like everything is trying to show you something. You're always on like a journey, and then synchronicity is like very big at that point because your eyes are open. You know, it's like the signs are always there. The universe is always doing its thing, and you're just picking up on a channel now because you're open to it. And if you're doing that consciously, then boom. And for something like rapé or ayahuasca or even weed or even a conversation, like there can be so much to learn from that. And definitely with substances, it's like an injection instead of like versus a topical cream. You know, it's like...
And it's a lot of people tell me about rapé or something. It's like, why do you need the substance to help you find these realizations? And I've realized that it's like... We're substance craving beings. We need vitamins to make us feel a certain way. We need water to stay hydrated, to think, to move, to live. We're constantly absorbing different substances. It's just we've added specific labels to weed, for example. For the longest time was a drug. It still is a drug, but it was demonized for how long? Up until recently, right? In Canada, it's completely legal now.
I bought my first store weed.
Oh my god!
I felt so weird.
How strange is that experience?
I have like a government stamped little jar.
Comes with a little Health Canada
and it's
pamphlet.
Good weed. Yeah, I was surprised. It's good prices. Well, good. I mean, there's a lot of fuckery, but I don't know, man. It's interesting.
So for rapé, it's kind of completely grounding, man. It's
the way I felt it when we just did it. Again, it's just one of my experiences, but I feel like, I don't know, if you do yoga, if you have some teachers, if you talk about this kind of stuff, if you get into the different bodies I won't get into it because it's a fucking 20-minute conversation just to like label stuff. But let's say you have this astral body, which the only way I can really understand it is like this thing that informs your physical body, and you inform it, I guess, too. But it's like it has its own senses, but it's just more subtle, and you can smell and touch and everything. But like, long story short, you have this facet of yourself that you're living through, the way you see through your eyes, the way you're hearing right now, you know, like there's a other body as well that might like travel when you dream or something. They call it astral travel. Like again, I don't want to get too much into it, but I feel sometimes when I'm meditating, this like directions start moving and changing. And someone once told me, like a Swami, they were explaining to me, this is your astral body like finding its place in your physical body more easily.
Wow. Okay.
And the second, I think it was the first nostril, and I just like turn and I spit, and I felt like the entire world turn with me. And then my analytical brain's like, what is that? What's going on? And then I just like, where have I felt this before? It's not like it's like the opposite of dizzy. It's like I'm super in my body, and like I said, like everything turned with me when I turned.
Wow. Yeah.
And I had this thought, like I feel like my astral body crashed into my physical body, and everything that comes with that, you know, like suddenly everything's just more real. You know, my surroundings are more real, and it's a lot of stuff I was ignoring for the sake of avoiding anxiety
and tuning out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all just comes like flooding in.
It's like you're turning the radio dial back into Sammy. You know, it's like,
yeah, we
kind of get busy and by all the noise around us, and we kind of forget that, whoa, okay, this is me, my body, and this is sensation again, where it's easy to distract from all the external. That's what rapping, for me personally, it just, when I say it brings you back to the centers, it brings your awareness right back in.
Oh yeah, you can't. I mean, you got a powder shot up your nose with force.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to just put it like black and white on paper like that, like you're not thinking about your taxes or something. Yeah. You're just like, okay, let's do the other nostril. Okay. I love that. The first time I did it, the guy's like, by the way, it's tradition to do both nostrils.
Like, know? What the fuck? I've already blasted off.
No, but he warned me first. Yeah. Like, we didn't do the first one yet. He just goes, like, it was a nice way of him saying, you're not going to want to do the second one. Yeah. But we're going to do the second one. Okay? Okay. And he's such a nice guy that I was like, okay, let's do this. And that, maybe we should talk about that too, because the rap is like in context to the ceremonies. For
that's how we were both introduced to it, right? It was,
and then we can bleed into... We could talk about integration if we have time.
So you want to go into your first ceremony with me? I mean,
I can nutshell it, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's like in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful
it's ayahuasca
people.
We're talking about.
Yeah. So we go and short context on ayahuasca. I guess it's like, again, we could talk about it like
that's its own topic.
But it's a brew from Amazonian tribes. Yeah. I don't know a lot about it, to be honest, but it's a potent psychedelic. It lasts long. It's a drink. DMT usually isn't active through the stomach through eating it, because your enzymes in your stomach destroy it. There's DMT in salad, like in everything green and all the grass and
most
everything.
living things as well.
Exactly, and we produce it apparently too. That's been proven in mice and starting to be proven in humans.
They've found it in different parts of the brain
and the gut too. That's really cool. Because before that, there's a lot of talk about how the gut and the brain talk to each other, and then you're starting to realize there's neurons in the heart and the gut, and it's like we don't really understand how the body works. This is what we're finding out. So ayahuasca, it's important to have ayahuasca in a ceremony. Any psychedelic, I think, it's important to have intention, setting, all that stuff. Yeah. And this ceremony is very traditional, very based in I'm assuming like the lineage that I don't know the names or anything, but the guy was. Every time we would drink, we would like thank them because they have to like bring it to us somehow. Like, I don't even know how any of that works. And so again, like long story short, we take this drink and there's periods in between because we take multiple drinks. I think about 3 per ceremony. Spread
out throughout every few hours. You go in for the next serving if you want.
If you want, it's all very if you want vibe. Yeah. But just kind of like, you're here, let's do it also, you know. But no one is very not pushy. It's a beautiful atmosphere.
Yeah. You almost feel like you have more strength to take that next shot of ayahuasca because everyone is with you in it. You know,
every time someone went up again, every single person, I was like, you're so brave. I was doing it too, but I was like, okay, let's do this, you know. But then I see them doing it, I'm like, you're so brave. Yeah. I can't believe you're going again.
it's beautiful. It's like we're accumulating. We're all accumulative together. Just like, okay, you went. I have the power to. I can do it.
That's part of the set and setting, man. The guy running the show, sort of, and all the people in the background making it happen and helping them. All the music during the ceremonies, all the chanting, the breathing techniques beforehand. The second day where you are in silence, so that you're kind of like forced to integrate.
Yeah, and
all
internalize
of it,
right?
Yeah. And you can't like no one's talking to each other. Everyone's kind of forced to process.
Yeah, because after the first ceremony, the next following day, it's a vow of silence, right?
And that's perfect technique for integration. So that alludes to it a lot.
Yeah.
And so back to rapé, if you're familiar with ayahuasca, a lot of stories are purging. It's this unfortunate byproduct. It's actually kind of part of it, to be honest. But it sucks. You could have diarrhea. That's a little more rare, but a lot of people will vomit, which is understandable because you're like really messing with your stomach chemistry just to be able to like ingest this thing. It's kind of fascinating. Like there's one plant that inhibits that enzyme in your stomach, and there's another plant that's rich in DMT, and they like mix it probably with some other stuff, and then that's ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And it means like death rope or something cool like that. It's
Vine
like
of the Dead.
Yeah.
There's a few names for it.
Yeah, the Madre there's a million.
Yeah.
There's what's the Christian one, like the
Daime.
Daime.
Santo Daime is the church.
It's beautiful.
In Brazil.
And it's spread because of the religious context. It's easier in Canada to be like protected through religious avenues, like through the government wise. So rapé is introduced in between, like during a ceremony, and it's to help you purge. And it was perfect for me the first time. I felt like vomiting, and I wasn't vomiting. And then the guy's like, I can tell it's coming, but it's not coming. This is gonna make it. Yeah, he just with such certainty, he's like, this is gonna make you purge. Like get the bucket.
Yeah.
100% sure.
This Dollarama plastic bucket turns out to be your best friend.
Oh, dude, you hug that thing like it's your mom. You're just So, I mean, during the ceremony, it's like invaluable because you're going on a fucking roller coaster ride, and then you're suddenly like centered and grounded, and it's like relieving.
Yes.
Whereas a half hour ago, I was describing it's kind of uncomfortable. Like I was out of my body, I was in my head, I was thinking, and then I kind of got forced back into feeling everything.
You said it perfectly too. It's very sobering. You said it outside. It's like rapé kind of just like boom,
Yeah.
And during an ayahuasca ceremony, sometimes it can be very overwhelming, psychologically and physically. Sometimes you feel that purge that wasn't coming out, or your mind is just spinning into a circle of thoughts, and you kind of can't find your center and your grounding. And then when you do your rapé ceremony during the ayahuasca ceremony, it's like it completely brings you back to right now, right here, and whatever was needed to come out is going to just come out effortlessly.
It's like the last straw that breaks the camel's back, but the point is to break the back. So this is like a ox, it's like a in the back pocket last straw.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, here's your last straw.
Power
Boom.
boost.
Broke that back. No problem.
So it
is a little beyond words.
Describe what happened after you took the rapé in that ceremony.
Well, so the first ceremony, I'm closing my eyes the whole time. I'm in like a meditative pose. I'm like Mr. Yoga and it helped actually. I feel my body getting weak and my eyes are closed the whole time. So the visuals are very strong, and I'm getting like a soft download. Like shrooms is a hard download. It's the universe. Ayahuasca it stays on Earth. Yeah. But it's a lot still. And then
just to cut you off,
please.
The leader of the group that administers the ayahuasca, he says in the beginning, sometimes he mentions it, sometimes he doesn't, but it's very valuable advice, is that try to sit up during the experience, because when you lie down on your back, you're inducing the beta signals in the mind that promote sleeping. So you kind of trick your brain into thinking, oh, it's time to go to sleep. So when you sit up, it's way more stimulating, and it's easier to visualize without veering off, right?
It's definitely a different experience. I mean, I moved around a lot. The first time I tried to have this kind of austerity and kind of just like, ugh, you know, and I toughed myself through it, and that made me take it a lot easier the second time. Yeah. But I felt the movements, the body, everything fed back so immediately into how I was feeling, and I was so I was like flying through the tornado that you don't even notice. But then like the songs come up, and then like you're encouraged to sing with it because it's like that type of song. Yeah. And then like the song might be uplifting, and like you stand taller, and the singing makes you want to stand taller, and like you feel so different. Yeah. Okay, so I get up, the guy says rap it time, we go, we leave the beautiful room, I forgot the name of that too, there's like a traditional name. Yeah. And we go through this crazy fucking hobbit door. And
be careful because it slams closed, so you gotta gently close it.
I love that it does that. Everywhere I go that's supposed to be like shanti shanti, it's like, oh, by the way, there's like a dog that doesn't stop barking or whatever. It's like, here's your test to practice equanimity. He even said it, and I was like, me and you are gonna be friends. Yeah. And I was really actually, I don't know if I ever told you this, I was terrified to do the rapé because it's like I can't hide being vulnerable anymore. Like it's getting more and more real. Oh, okay. First time I get in there, I don't know anybody except you. I kind of linger next to you. Like I'm a shy human being, and that's a weird experience. And like I see you go first. I'm hesitating to even like sit up and like go and be like, hey, I want to do this, you know? Yeah. And you're like, you took a massive hit. The guy even said like, get ready, you know, like let's do this. Like you were down, you knew it was coming, and then you're like huddled in the corner, you're gripping the bucket, you're like crying and shit, and I just go like, I can't not do this now. Like this guy came here for me so that I could feel comfortable, and it worked. Like I needed you there. It would have been such a different experience. And
it's just funny to hear it from your point of view, from my experience. Sure, it's amazing.
Sure. So like that really made me go like, stop being a bitch, you know, like maybe in softer words, but it's like, look what this guy's doing, putting himself through. Maybe it's a little naive because it's for you too, obviously, but you said it, that you had this experience a couple of times, and this time you're really just coming for me. You ended up having a lot of insights for yourself, which I mean, it's hard not to, I guess.
But my initial intention was to be there with you, because I was there 2 weeks prior to our ceremony together, but I kind of thought I had what I needed from that ceremony, which is never the case. You know, you always think I got what I needed, but there's always more to learn. But my initial intention was to accompany you and be there for you the whole way through, which also changed throughout, but that was the going point for me.
I'm glad you vocalized it also, because it's like you weren't like, oh yeah, I got my black belt or my blue belt or whatever. Like you were just like, you know, I'm getting a lot out of this, but like this time I just kind of want to bring you into the circle. And I didn't really think anything of it. I was obviously appreciative, but then once I was there, I was like, I needed him to be here. Wow. To take some extra, to be a little more comfortable. That moment was a perfect example of that too. Like I really maybe wouldn't have done it at all. And then when I did the rapé, it's like I feel like one of them now a little bit. You know, I feel a little more in the circle. Through the gauntlet. Yeah, and that brings people together. I mean, like especially when you're all vomiting and stuff like that. Well, I don't remember that girl's name there, but like that very attractive blonde woman that we have repeatedly. We've brought her up once or twice. Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything else about her, so I just call her the hot chick. You know? Like, she's really cool when I talk to her, but she did it also. So it's like to see this like slender, beautiful human like matching expectations in my brain, and then like shooting a powder up her nose, and then vomiting, and just being like a human. And I'm like, oh, like no one's standing on ceremony here, which is a funny way of putting it because it's a ceremony, but no one gives a fuck, man.
And that's the essence of it. And you brought this up so many times, like off podcast, just like ayahuasca is part of it, but it's the environment of just being vulnerable together. That's the fucking 90% of the experience, man. It's really just how open we can become without fear of judgment, and just be yourself in your most vulnerable state, and being loved, and like in that state, there's just so much beauty behind it.
Vulnerability plus love equals growth, man.
Yeah, man. And it's like, what a fucking blessing to have that type of environment that you can go to and be that vulnerable. And like, what you can have puke hanging from your nose, and your your chin, and it's all good.
And
man.
you got to go clean your bucket after.
You go wash your bucket out.
And like you think it's a walk of shame, but it's like a badge of honor.
It's a weird fucking badge of honor, man.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like that stuff's harder than taking ayahuasca. Once you're tripping and you're going through an experience, and everyone has their own experience, and it's hard to even get into verbally, but it's hard to stand up and dance with strangers. It's hard to do a breathing technique that like induces heavy emotions until you're laughing hysterically, and then it turns into sobbing, like deep, loud crying, and that hot girl is next to you, also crying or something. You know, like it's, or she's just not, or like, you know, all this stuff's going through your head, and all the social dynamics kind of break down, which seems so useful usually. Yeah. But a lot of it has these like bullshit attached to it, and it's like all these little games you're playing, and then it's doing some stuff that's genuinely physically fun. That, like the second time we danced, I was 2 ceremonies in. I just closed my eyes. I started fucking shaking my body. I don't give a fuck what I look like. I'm bumping into people. Yeah.
And that's it. That's
night and day, man.
But that ceremony, it's breaking those walls you've created that hold you in.
And they come back. Yeah. You're the wall builder and the wall breaker.
Yes.
And the next time someone tells you why you doing rapping or whatever, tell them that. Tell them how, what are you, a perfect human being? You don't drink coffee sometimes? You know, you were calling it a drug? I mean, like, I don't like the double speak about this, but like food is considered a drug. You know, like the word drug gets really slippery when you get into the dictionary definition and how people use it in certain like professional milieus, and like the pharmaceutical company would consider food a drug. And for me, I actually like that. It's like you're always putting stuff inside your body that's just changing you and messing with you. Sometimes I eat chocolate or like sugar before I go to bed so I can have more intense dreams. Yeah,
and you know, if you had no substance in your body, you would last 3 days before 4 days, and then you're gonna die. You know
that too. Like
water is a substance. Yeah. It's just what you're choosing to put in.
But I don't know. Water doesn't like affect your mentality.
Well, it for sure would, man.
I guess it does. Yeah, it's all up regulations and down regulations. Yeah. Maybe water is a bad example, but like, cause like you do get loopy if you're dehydrated, and you might not even notice it.
Yeah. You know,
but it's different from like drinking coffee or doing cocaine or something.
But coffee every day, most people have a cup of coffee in the morning to just kickstart their system.
That's just a matrix glitch though. Everyone's like, don't do weed, and then they get hammered. Yeah. And then they're like, don't.
I've had conversations with people like back when I used to go out onto bars and stuff, and they would be smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol and telling me like, oh, I don't do that stuff. That's drugs. Meanwhile, they're ingesting those kind of substances.
Fuck, it's already 12:30. So, long story short on the rapé, I mean long story long at this point, I sit down, I do it, and this, like, I'm closing my eyes, I still have the ayahuasca experience, and this thing gets shot up my nose, and I start feeling movement in my body, and the visual is like this thing inside me that needs to get out, and it seems like a parasite. It seems like this like insect, something bad, something that shouldn't be part of me, and it's like making its way out, and I'm seeing this sort of, and then I vomit, and it's like I know it's out, I know it's gone, and I feel like so many people described something similar before and after. Like I didn't even maybe take it in because now I have an experience to draw from, so I'm hearing people talk about like it feels like hands are reaching in or something. It's
just deep guck that you've held on to.
I don't know what.
Both emotional, physical, it's just stored inside.
But I mean, all of that together, and then I leave, and I'm like so in the moment, like I can't even not be. I'm just so crushed into the moment in a good way. Like just like, this is it, this is fine. There's something soft about it too. I lose it sometimes, and I forgive myself instantly, and I just go back to it. Nice. It was so easy. Yeah. It still kind of is. It's like it's like I cleaned out a space in my brain to be like, that's where that is. Yeah. You know, who sits in the throne, like Paul Selig says. And then I listened. Then I went to a concert. That's the best part. Man. Raoul Medon. I love this musician, and I listened to the music, and I did nothing else. I forgot about the world. I closed my eyes, and I heard the music. Yeah, and that could be cliche, I guess, but like I actually did it, and I feel like I hadn't since I was like 9 years old or something. It was a religious experience.
Deeply present to it.
Yeah. This is our podcast. We're going to talk about physical health. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about substances, like plant medicines. I love that term. We'll talk about other stuff. I have a fun experience with a lot of substances and drugs and such, and yoga and just the meditation, mindfulness. We want to just get into some real stuff and some fun stuff that humans have created or discovered that get us back into that real stuff. And we want to talk about the meta of that. How do we integrate that stuff once we get there? How do we, are there pitfalls? You know, like all that fun stuff. And we want to also interview some fun people who can add to the conversation.
Different perspectives, different mindsets.
Exactly.
Some fruits from each person. You know, we're going to start getting some cool guests for sure.
Yeah. And we can even talk about people we'd like to have. You know, we can get into some dead guys like Alan Watts, and we can. You talked about Dennis McKenna a lot, you know, and Terrence McKenna, for sure. And like these people are all really interesting, and all this. This is a great time for this podcast. I'm like really excited that we're doing this because of maps and stuff like that. And because like
it's perfect timing now because the movement is happening, and I feel like we can bring more awareness even to our circle and to our immediate surrounding and outwards. Just talking about this fun stuff, because the journey of just finding this information is so fun. And when I remember me searching back in 2012 about all ayahuasca and everything, and now fast forward to now, it's just like it's been such an incredible transformative journey.
Yeah, I don't think about that enough. You know, like where was I and where am I now? It's huge.
From the questions you had then to the answers that you've attained now, and the new questions that you have now for the future answers that you will attain. It's just fucking...
And the attitude towards the questions.
Yeah, man.
Just kind of accepting the eternal path. I forgot where I heard this recently, but it's like I don't know, it's like some monks somewhere or something. They call them masters in training. They never finish, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
On that note, brother.
All right.
Until next time.
Peace, bitches.